Jeremiah Nash woke to the sound of his bedroom door creaking open in the dead of night, and his first instinct was to reach for the hunting knife he kept beneath his pillow. But then he saw her silhouette in the doorway, his orc bride, Kora, standing there with her shoulders hunched and her hands twisted together like she was trying to hold herself from falling apart. "I cannot sleep," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, and even in the darkness he could hear the shame threading through those 3 words. They had been married for only 5 days, bound together by a treaty neither of them had wanted, a political arrangement meant to bring peace between the human settlement of Thornwood Ridge and the orc clan that lived in the mountains beyond. Jeremiah was a veteran, a former soldier who had bought this farmstead on the frontier hoping for quiet after years of war. Kora was the daughter of the orc chieftain, given away to cement an alliance that would keep both peoples from slaughtering each other over territory and resources. They were strangers wearing wedding bands, 2 people forced into intimacy without the foundation of trust or affection. "Come here," Jeremiah said, pushing himself up against the headboard. He did not light a candle. Somehow the darkness made it easier for both of them. Kora moved into the room with careful steps, and he could see her better now that his eyes had adjusted. The green of her skin was muted in the moonlight filtering through the window. Her tusks small and delicate where they curved up from her lower jaw, her black hair hanging loose around her shoulders instead of braided the way she wore it during the day. She was tall and strong, built like someone who had trained with weapons and worked with her hands, but right now she looked smaller somehow, vulnerable in a way that made something twist in his chest. "I do not wish to disturb you," she said, stopping at the foot of his bed. "But I have not slept since I came here. I lie in that room and I stare at the ceiling and I feel like I am drowning." Jeremiah had given her the second bedroom, the one that faced east and caught the morning sun. He had thought she would want her own space, her own place to retreat from this marriage that neither of them had chosen. He had been trying to be respectful, trying to give her autonomy in a situation where so much had been taken from her. "How long have you been awake?" he asked. "All night." "Every night." She looked away from him toward the window. "In my clan we sleep together, not in the way of married people but close. My sisters and I shared sleeping furs. My cousins were nearby. There was always someone breathing next to me, always warmth and sound. Here, in that room alone, I feel like I am being buried alive." The honesty of it struck him like a physical blow. She was admitting to fear, to weakness, and he knew enough about orc culture to understand what a risk that was. Orcs valued strength above almost everything else. To confess vulnerability was to invite judgment, to potentially lose respect and standing. "You should have told me," he said. "I did not want you to think I was weak." Her hands were still twisted together, her knuckles pale against the green of her skin. "I did not want you to think I could not handle this marriage, this life. Kora." He waited until she looked at him. "I am not going to think you are weak because you cannot sleep alone. That is not weakness. That is just how you are made." She was quiet for a long moment, and then she said, "May I stay here? I will sleep on the floor. I will not bother you. You are not sleeping on the floor." Jeremiah pulled back the blankets on the other side of the bed. "Get in." "It is cold and I am not going to make my wife sleep on the ground like a dog." Kora hesitated, and he could see the war happening behind her eyes, pride versus need, tradition versus desperation. Finally, need won. She moved around the bed and climbed in, staying as close to the edge as she could without falling off. The mattress dipped under her weight, and suddenly, Jeremiah was intensely aware of her presence, of the warmth radiating from her body, of the way she was holding herself so carefully still. "You can relax," he said. "I am not going to do anything. You are safe." "I know." But her voice was tight, and he realized she was not afraid of him, she was afraid of herself, of this vulnerability she was showing, of what it meant to need something from him. They lay there in the darkness, both of them staring at the ceiling, and Jeremiah thought this might be the most awkward moment of his entire life. He had fought in battles, had killed men, had survived things that would have broken lesser people, but lying next to his orc bride in tense silence felt harder than any of that. Minutes passed, maybe an hour. He could hear Kora's breathing, could feel the way she was still holding herself rigid, and he knew she was not sleeping. She was just lying there, suffering quietly because she did not want to ask for more than she had already been given. Jeremiah made a decision. He reached across the space between them and found her hand in the darkness. Her fingers were cold, her palm rough with calluses from whatever training she had done back in her clan. He wrapped his hand around hers and held on. Kora went very still. "What are you doing?" "Helping you sleep," he said simply. "You said you need someone close, so I am here. I am holding your hand. Now close your eyes and rest. You do not have to, I know I do not have to, I want to." And as he said it, Jeremiah realized it was true. He wanted to help her. This woman who had been ripped from her home and given to a stranger, who had been trying so hard to be strong and stoic and unbreakable, she deserved to sleep. She deserved to feel safe, even if it was just for a few hours. Kora's fingers tightened around his, and he felt the exact moment she stopped fighting. Her breathing changed, deepened, and within minutes she was asleep. Jeremiah stayed awake longer, his hand still clasped with hers, and wondered what exactly he had gotten himself into. The next morning, Kora was gone when he woke. Her side of the bed was empty, the blankets pulled up neatly like she had never been there at all. For a moment, Jeremiah wondered if he had dreamed the whole thing, but then he went downstairs and found her in the kitchen, making breakfast with efficient movements, and he knew it had been real. She did not look at him when he entered. "I made porridge, and there is bread from yesterday." "Thank you." He sat down at the table watching her. She was wearing a simple dress, forest green and belted at the waist, her hair braided in a complex pattern that he did not understand but found beautiful anyway. "Did you sleep well?" Her shoulders tensed. "Yes." "Thank you for letting me stay." "You do not have to thank me. You are my wife. That is your bed as much as mine." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You are welcome there any time you need it." Kora finally turned to look at him, and he saw surprise in her amber eyes, followed by something that might have been relief. "You would not mind?" "No, I would not mind." She set a bowl of porridge in front of him, and their eyes met for just a moment before she looked away. "I will come tonight, then. If the offer stands, it stands." They ate breakfast in silence, but it was a different kind of silence than the strained awkwardness of the previous days. This was quieter, more comfortable, like they had found a small piece of common ground in the wilderness of their arranged marriage. That night, Kora appeared in his doorway again, but this time she did not apologize or explain. She just climbed into bed next to him, and when he reached for her hand, she was already reaching for his. It became their routine. Every night, Kora would come to his room after finishing her evening tasks. Every night they would lie in the darkness, hands clasped between them. Every night she would fall asleep within minutes, and Jeremiah would stay awake a little longer, listening to her breathe. He never told her to stop. Days turned into weeks, and their life settled into a rhythm. Jeremiah worked the farm, plowing fields, mending fences, tending to the small herd of goats he kept. Kora took over the household tasks with a competence that surprised him, cooking and cleaning and managing their supplies with careful efficiency. They were like two people dancing around each other, learning the steps as they went, trying not to collide. But at night, in the darkness, With their hands clasped together, that was when they were most honest. "Tell me about the war," Kora said one night, 3 weeks into their marriage. They were lying on their backs, staring at the ceiling, and her voice was soft in the quiet. "What do you want to know? Why you left? Why you bought a farm instead of staying a soldier?" Jeremiah was quiet for a long moment. He did not talk about the war, not to anyone. But something about the darkness, about the way Kora's hand felt in his, made him want to try. "I was tired of killing," he said finally. "I was good at it. That was the problem. I was very good at it, and I stopped feeling things when I did it. That scared me more than dying did." Kora's thumb moved against his palm, a small gesture of comfort. "That does not make you a bad person. No, but it makes me someone who needed to stop before I became one." He turned his head to look at her profile in the moonlight. "What about you? What was your life like before this?" "I trained with weapons. I was supposed to be a warrior for my clan." Her voice carried an edge of bitterness. "But then the treaty was proposed, and my father decided I was more valuable as a bargaining chip than a soldier. I am sorry. It is not your fault. You did not want this marriage any more than I did." She paused. "But I am grateful you are kind. I know many men would not be." Jeremiah thought about that, about the other outcomes this marriage could have had. He thought about the men he had known in the army, the ones who would have seen an orc bride as something to conquer rather than someone to care for. The thought made his stomach turn. "You deserve kindness," he said. "Marriage should not be a punishment." Kora turned her head to look at him, and even in the dim light he could see the emotion in her eyes. She did not say anything, but her hand tightened around his, and that felt like enough. Another week passed. The weather turned colder as autumn settled over the frontier, and Jeremiah spent his days preparing the farm for winter. Kora helped him, working alongside him in the fields with a strength that made the labor go twice as fast. She could carry bales of hay that would have required 2 men to lift, could split firewood with a few powerful swings of the axe. Jeremiah found himself watching her sometimes, admiring the competence in her movements, the way she approached every task with complete focus. He was starting to realize that he liked her, not just tolerated her, not just respected her, he genuinely liked her. He liked the way she hummed while she cooked, liked the quiet intelligence in her observations, liked the rare smiles she gave him when he said something that amused her. He liked coming home to find her reading one of his books by the fire, or working on some mending, or just existing in his space like she belonged there. Because she did belong there. This was her home now, as much as it was his. But he did not know how to tell her any of that, so he just kept holding her hand at night and hoping she understood what he could not say. The first snow came in early November, a light dusting that turned the world white and silent. Jeremiah woke that morning to find Kora still asleep beside him, her hand still clasped in his, and for a moment he just lay there and watched her. In sleep, she looked peaceful, the tension she carried during the day smoothed away. Her tusks were small and delicate, her features strong but not harsh. Beautiful, he thought, and then immediately felt strange for thinking it. Kora's eyes opened and she caught him staring. For a moment neither of them moved, and then she said, "Good morning." "Morning." His voice came out rougher than he intended. "It snowed last night. I can feel the cold." She made no move to pull her hand away. "We should stay in bed." It was a joke, probably a joke, but Jeremiah's heart kicked against his ribs anyway. "We have work to do." "I know." But she still did not move, and neither did he. They lay there for another few minutes, hands still clasped, just looking at each other in the gray morning light. Something was shifting between them, something neither of them had words for yet. It felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that one more step would send them tumbling into the unknown. Finally, Kora sat up, breaking the moment. "I will make breakfast. I will get the fire going." They moved through their morning routine, and on the surface everything was normal. But Jeremiah could feel the change humming between them, could see it in the way Kora's eyes lingered on him when she thought he was not looking, could feel it in the way his heart jumped every time their hands accidentally brushed. He was falling for his orc bride, and he had no idea what to do about it. That night when they lay down together, Jeremiah hesitated before reaching for her hand. "Kora, can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Are you—" He stopped, not sure how to phrase it. "Are you happy here?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know if happy is the right word. I am not unhappy. I feel safe. I feel like I have purpose. And I feel," she broke off, then continued in a softer voice, "I feel less alone than I thought I would." "Less alone is good," he said, and finally reached for her hand. She met him halfway, their fingers tangling together with a familiarity that should not have developed so quickly. Jeremiah. His name in her mouth sounded different, softer. "Thank you for this, for letting me hold your hand. I know it probably seems foolish, but it matters to me." "It is not foolish." He turned onto his side so he was facing her, their joined hands resting on the mattress between them. "And I like it. Holding your hand, I like knowing you are here." In the moonlight, he saw her eyes widen slightly. "You do?" "Yes." The word came out simple and honest, and he watched her face as she processed it. "I like it too," she whispered. "I like it more than I should." Jeremiah's heart was pounding now, his pulse loud in his ears. They were still just holding hands, still separated by a foot of mattress, but it felt like the most intimate thing he had ever experienced. Why should not you like it? Because this was supposed to be a political marriage, a treaty, not something real. Who says it cannot be real? Kora stared at him, and he could see her struggling with the question, with the implications of it. "You want this to be real?" "I want," Jeremiah took a breath. "I want to know you better. I want to make you happy. I want this to be more than just an arrangement." He paused. "But only if you want that too." For a long, terrible moment, Kora said nothing. Then she moved closer, closing the distance between them until they were sharing the same pillow, until he could feel her breath against his face. "I want that too," she said. "I've wanted it for weeks, but I was afraid to say it. Afraid you would think I was foolish for developing feelings for a man who never wanted to marry me in the first place." "I never wanted to marry anyone," Jeremiah said. "But now that you are here, I cannot imagine sending you away. I cannot imagine not having you in my life." Kora's free hand came up to touch his face, her palm warm against his cheek. "We are strange, are we not? An orc and a human, falling for each other like something out of a children's story. The best stories are always strange." He turned his head to press a kiss to her palm and felt her shiver. "Can I kiss you, please?" He leaned forward and pressed his lips to hers, gentle and careful, giving her every chance to pull away, but she did not pull away. Instead, she kissed him back with a quiet intensity that made his whole body light up, her tusks a strange but not unpleasant pressure against his lips. Her hand tightened around his, and he realized they were still holding on, still maintaining that connection that had become their anchor. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard. Kora's eyes were bright, her face flushed darker beneath the green of her skin. "That was good," he offered, "better than good." She kissed him again, softer this time, and then settled against him with her head on his shoulder and their hands still clasped between them. "Can we sleep like this?" "Yes." Jeremiah wrapped his other arm around her, holding her close. "We can sleep however you want." Kora made a small, contented sound and closed her eyes. Within minutes, her breathing had evened out and she was asleep. Jeremiah lay there holding her, marveling at the turn his life had taken. A month ago, he had been resigned to a loveless marriage, to a lifetime of polite distance from a woman who would always be a stranger. Now he was lying here with Kora in his arms, her hand in his, and he felt something he had not felt since before the war. He felt hope. Things changed after that night, but in small, subtle ways. They still held hands when they slept, but now Kora would fall asleep with her head on his shoulder, or he would wake to find her curled against his chest. They touched more during the day, too, a hand on the small of her back as he passed her in the kitchen, her fingers briefly squeezing his shoulder when she set down his lunch. They were learning each other's bodies the way they had learned each other's routines, with patience and careful attention. But they did not consummate the marriage. Not yet. There was an unspoken agreement between them that they would take their time, would let things develop naturally rather than rushing into intimacy just because they were legally bound. Jeremiah appreciated that. He had rushed into things before, in the war and before it, and he had learned that the best things in life were worth waiting for. Kora seemed to feel the same way. She kissed him often now in the mornings before they started their work, in the evenings before they went to sleep, sometimes just randomly during the day when the mood struck her. But she never pushed for more, and he never asked for it. They were content to exist in this in-between space, this place of building affection and growing trust. Winter deepened. The snow piled higher, and Jeremiah and Kora spent more time indoors, working on projects together. He taught her to read English better. She had known some before, but now he helped her improve, watching with quiet pride as she worked through his books. She taught him some of her language, the harsh, guttural sounds of Orcish that felt strange in his mouth, but became easier with practice. They talked more now, sharing stories from their pasts. She told him about growing up in her clan, about her sisters and cousins, about the training she had loved and the expectations that had always weighed on her. He told her about his childhood on a small farm not unlike this one, about the war that had taken him away, about the friends he had lost and the skills he wished he could forget. With every conversation, they grew closer. With every night spent hand in hand, the bond between them strengthened. But the peace could not last forever. In mid-December, a group of men from Thornwood Ridge arrived at the farm. Jeremiah heard them coming and went out to meet them, Kora following close behind. There were 5 of them, all bundled against the cold, and their faces were hard. Nash, the leader said. His name was Patrick Morris, and he was one of the town council members. We need to talk. About what? Jeremiah kept his voice level, but he could feel tension creeping up his spine. Morris's eyes flicked to Kora and his expression soured. About your wife. There have been complaints. What kind of complaints? People are uncomfortable. They do not like having an orc living so close to town. They say it is dangerous, that she might turn on us, that the peace treaty is not worth the risk. Jeremiah felt Kora tense beside him, felt her hand brush against his back, a small, unconscious gesture seeking reassurance. He took a half-step forward, putting himself more fully between her and the men. Kora has done nothing wrong. She has been here for 2 months and has not caused a single problem. That does not matter. Another man spoke up, younger than Morris, with anger bright in his eyes. She is an orc. Her people killed my brother in the war. Why should we trust her? Because the war is over, Jeremiah said, his voice going hard. Because the treaty says we have to try for peace. And because she is my wife, and if you have a problem with her, you have a problem with me. We are just saying you should send her back, Morris said, trying to sound reasonable. Find a different way to honor the treaty. We do not need an orc woman living in our territory. No, the word came out flat and final. She stays. This is her home. The men exchanged glances, and Jeremiah could see the calculation happening. They had not expected him to refuse outright. They had thought he would be reasonable, would be willing to negotiate. They did not understand that there was nothing to negotiate. Nash, be smart about this. I am being smart. I am keeping my wife safe in her own home. Jeremiah crossed his arms. Now, unless you have official business from the town council, I suggest you leave. Morris's jaw tightened. This is not over. Yes, it is. Get off my property. The men left, but Jeremiah could feel their resentment hanging in the air like smoke. He stood there until they were out of sight, then turned to find Kora staring at him with wide eyes. You did not have to do that, she said quietly. You could have. They might have offered you a solution that would not require. I do not want a solution that does not include you. Jeremiah took her hand, the gesture automatic now. You are my wife, you belong here, and I am not going to let anyone take you away from me. Kora's eyes were bright with unshed tears. They hate me. Your people hate me, not all of them, and the ones who do, they do not matter. He pulled her closer, wrapping his arms around her. You are safe here. I promise you that. She buried her face against his shoulder, and he felt her shaking. Not with fear, he realized, but with emotion, relief, and gratitude, and something deeper that she was not ready to name. I love you, she whispered against his shirt. I did not mean to, but I do. I love you, Jeremiah. His heart stopped, then restarted at double speed. Kora, you do not have to say it back. She pulled away just enough to look up at him. I just needed you to know. You have been so kind to me, so patient. You have made me feel safe and wanted and valued, and I love you for it. I love you for all of it. Jeremiah cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away the tears that had started to fall. I love you too, he said, and watched her eyes widen in shock. I have loved you for weeks, maybe longer. I just did not know how to tell you. Really, really. He kissed her soft and sweet, then rested his forehead against hers. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I am not going to let anyone take you away. They stood there in the cold, holding each other, and Jeremiah made a silent vow that he would protect her from anyone who tried to hurt her. The men from town had meant to intimidate him, to make him question his choices. But all they had done was make him more certain. Kora was his wife, and he would fight the entire world to keep her safe. That night they lay in bed as usual, hands clasped together, but there was a new weight to it now. They had said the words out loud. They had acknowledged what was happening between them, and that changed everything. You regret it? Kora asked quietly. Marrying me, I know this has made your life harder. No. Jeremiah did not even have to think about it. I do not regret it at all. You are the best part of my life. Even though people hate you for it, I have been hated before. It does not bother me as much as you might think. He turned onto his side, bringing their joined hands up to kiss her knuckles. Besides, their opinion does not matter. The only opinion that matters is yours. I think you are the best man I have ever known, Kora said. I think I am the luckiest woman alive to be your wife. We are both lucky, Jeremiah said. We found each other even if it was by accident. That has to count for something. They talked for another hour, voices soft in the darkness, and when they finally fell asleep it was tangled together, her head on his chest and his arm around her waist. Their hands still clasped between them. The trouble from town did not go away. If anything, it got worse. Over the next few weeks, Jeremiah started to notice small acts of hostility. When he went into Thornwood Ridge to trade, people were cold to him, unwilling to meet his eyes or engage in conversation. Some merchants refused to sell to him at all. He heard whispers behind his back, saw the way people stared at him with a mixture of pity and contempt. They thought he was a traitor for loving an orc. They thought he had betrayed his own kind. Jeremiah endured it with gritted teeth and stubborn silence. He would not give them the satisfaction of seeing him react. He would not prove their assumptions right by getting angry or defensive. He just did his business and went home to Kora, and every night when he held her hand and felt her relax into sleep, he knew he had made the right choice. But the hostility was not just directed at him. In late January, Kora went to town alone to buy supplies, and she came back with a black eye and split lip. Jeremiah saw red. "Who did this to you?" His voice was deadly calm, but inside he was a storm of fury. "It does not matter." Kora was trying to sound dismissive, but he could hear the pain underneath. "I should not have gone alone. That was foolish." "Who did this?" She looked away. "Some young men. They said I did not belong here. They said I was a monster and that you were a fool for keeping me." Her voice broke. "They pushed me down, called me names. One of them hit me before I could defend myself." Jeremiah's hands were shaking with the effort it took not to grab his rifle and march into town. "Did you recognize them?" "Yes." "But Jeremiah, you cannot. I am going to town." He was already moving toward the door. Kora grabbed his arm, her grip strong enough to stop him. "Please, do not. It will only make things worse. If you go there and start a fight, they will use it as an excuse to drive us out, or worse. They hurt you, I know." Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "And I am angry too, but we have to be smart about this. We have to think long term." Jeremiah wanted to argue, wanted to tell her that letting this go was the same as accepting it, but he also knew she was right. If he rode into town and beat up the men who had hurt her, it would only confirm what people already believed, that he was dangerous, that his loyalty to Kora had made him unstable, that the marriage had been a mistake. He forced himself to take a breath, to unclench his fists. "I hate this. I hate that they can hurt you and get away with it. I know." Kora pulled him into a hug and he held her carefully, mindful of her injuries. "But we will survive this. Together, we will find a way." That night, Jeremiah held her hand even more tightly than usual, and he lay awake long after she had fallen asleep, thinking about what to do. He could not let this continue. He could not live in a world where the woman he loved was treated like this, where her safety was constantly at risk just because of what she was. But he also could not fight an entire town. He was good with a rifle and knew how to handle himself in a fight, but he was one man. If things escalated, he and Kora would be outnumbered and outmatched. He needed a different solution. The idea came to him in the early hours of the morning, just as the sky was starting to lighten. It was risky, maybe even foolish, but it was the only option he could see that did not end with them fleeing or fighting. He would go to Kora's clan. He would talk to her father, the chieftain, and ask for help. When he told Kora the next morning, she stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You want to go to the orc clans, alone?" "Yes. They will kill you, maybe, but maybe not. We are married. That makes me family, does it not?" "That is not how it works." Kora was pacing now, her movements agitated. "My father gave me a way to secure peace. He will not care about your troubles. He will see you as a human who took advantage of his daughter. Then I will convince him otherwise." Jeremiah caught her hand as she paced past him, pulling her to a stop. "Kora, we cannot keep living like this. Sooner or later something worse is going to happen. I need to try." "I will come with you." "No. If we both go and something happens, we lose everything. But if I go alone and you stay here, at least the farm is protected. At least you have a place to return to if things go wrong." He squeezed her hand. "Please, trust me." Kora looked like she wanted to argue, but finally she nodded. "I trust you. But Jeremiah, be careful. My father is not a cruel man, but he is practical. If he thinks you are a threat or a liability, he will not hesitate to act." "I understand. And my clan, some of them, were angry when I was sent away. They may see you as the enemy. I can handle it. You are very brave, or very foolish." She kissed him, hard and desperate. "Come back to me. I will, I promise. Jeremiah set out the next morning with supplies for a week-long journey. The orc clans lived in the mountains to the north, a 3-day ride if the weather held. He had never been there before, had never had reason to venture so deep into what was technically orc territory. But he knew the general direction, and he had Kora's instructions on what landmarks to look for. The first 2 days passed without incident. The weather was cold but clear, and he made good time. On the 3rd day, as he was climbing into the foothills, he was intercepted by a group of orc scouts. There were 4 of them, all male, all armed with crude but effective weapons. They surrounded him on the trail, their expressions hostile. "Human," the leader said in heavily accented English, "you are trespassing." "I am Jeremiah Nash. I am married to Kora, daughter of Chief Grath. I am here to speak with him." The scouts exchanged glances. Kora was sent away. She is not part of the clan anymore. She is still his daughter, and I am her husband. I have the right to request an audience. The leader studied him for a long moment, then gestured to the others. "We will take you to the chief, but if you try anything, we will kill you." "Understood." They took his weapons and bound his hands, then led him deeper into the mountains. Jeremiah tried to memorize the path, but it was complex and winding, clearly designed to confuse outsiders. After another hour of hiking, they arrived at the orc settlement. It was larger than he had expected, with dozens of sturdy buildings made from stone and timber. Orcs moved about their business, some stopping to stare at him as he was led through the camp. He heard muttering, saw hostility in their eyes, but no one interfered. They brought him to the largest building, a longhouse with carved beams and a thick wooden door. Inside, it was warm and dimly lit, with a central fire and benches along the walls. At the far end, sitting on a raised platform, was Chief Grath. He was a massive orc, even by orc standards, with broad shoulders and arms like tree trunks. His skin was a deep, dark green, his tusks large and yellowed with age. His hair was black shot through with gray, pulled back in a warrior's knot. He regarded Jeremiah with cold, calculating eyes. "So," Grath said in perfect English, his voice a deep rumble, "you are the human who took my daughter." "I am the human who married your daughter, yes." Jeremiah kept his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. "I have come to ask for your help." "Why would I help you?" "Because Kora is in danger. The humans in Thornwood Ridge are threatening her. She was attacked last week, beaten in the street because of what she is. I need your help to ensure her safety." Grath leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "If my daughter is in danger, she can return to the clan." "She does not want to return. She wants to stay with me, and I want to keep her safe in our home." Jeremiah took a breath. "But I cannot do it alone. I am one man against an entire town. I need allies. Why should I care what happens to humans in your settlement? They are not my concern. Because if they drive Kora out, or worse, if they kill her, the treaty dies with her, and then we are back to war." Jeremiah met the chief's gaze steadily. "You gave her to me to secure peace. If that peace fails, her sacrifice was for nothing." The longhouse was silent. Every orc in the room was watching now, waiting to see how the chief would respond. Grath sat back, stroking one of his tusks thoughtfully. "You are clever, human, and brave to come here alone. But tell me, why should I believe you care about my daughter? This was a political marriage. She is a tool to you, nothing more." "She is not a tool. She is my wife, and I love her." The words came out fierce and uncompromising. "I love her more than I have ever loved anything, and I would die before I let anyone hurt her." "Love." Grath said the word like it was foreign to him. "You claim to love an orc. I do not claim it. I know it. Kora is the best thing that has ever happened to me. She is smart and strong and kind, and every day I wake up grateful that she chose to stay with me." Jeremiah's voice cracked slightly. "Please, I am not asking you to care about me. I am asking you to help protect your daughter." Grath was silent for a long moment, and then he stood. He was even more imposing at his full height, towering over Jeremiah by at least a foot. He walked down from the platform and stopped directly in front of Jeremiah, staring down at him with those cold eyes. "My daughter was always too soft," he said finally. "Too kind. I worried that sending her away would break her. But if you are telling the truth, if you truly love her, then perhaps I was wrong." He turned to the scouts. "Untie him." They cut the ropes around Jeremiah's wrists, and he rubbed feeling back into his hands, watching the chief warily. "Here is what I will do," Grath said. "I will send warriors to your farm. They will patrol the area and ensure that no humans from your settlement bother my daughter. If anyone attacks her, my warriors will respond with force. This protection will continue for 1 year. At the end of that time, we will reassess." Relief flooded through Jeremiah, so intense it made him dizzy. Thank you, Chief Grath. "Do not thank me yet. This protection comes with a condition." Grath crossed his massive arms. "You and my daughter will allow my wife and I to visit. We will see for ourselves how she is being treated. If we determine that you are lying, that you are mistreating her, or that she is unhappy, we will take her back by force, and you will not survive the attempt. That is fair. You are welcome to visit any time." "Good." Grath gestured to one of the other orcs. "Give him food and a place to rest. Tomorrow, he will return to his farm with an escort. The patrols will begin immediately." Jeremiah was led to a smaller building and given a meal of roasted meat and bread. He ate quickly, his mind racing with everything that had just happened. He had succeeded. Against all odds, he had convinced the orc chief to help him. Now he just had to get home and tell Kora. The journey back took 2 days, with Jeremiah accompanied by 6 orc warriors. They traveled in silence, the orcs clearly uncomfortable with the human in their midst, but not hostile. When they finally arrived at the farm, Kora came running out of the house, her face lighting up with relief when she saw him. "Jeremiah." She threw herself into his arms and he held her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her. "I am okay. I am home. I was so worried. I thought—" She broke off when she saw the orc warriors. Her eyes widened and she took a step back. "What is this, protection?" Jeremiah said. "Your father has agreed to send warriors to patrol the area. No one from Thornwood Ridge is going to hurt you again." Kora stared at him, then at the warriors, then back at him. "He agreed to that, my father." "Yes, he wants to visit, though, to make sure you are being treated well." "He what?" Kora looked stunned. "He wants to visit me." One of the warriors stepped forward, a younger orc with a scar across his cheek. "Chief Grath wants to ensure your happiness, Kora. He regrets sending you away. Your husband convinced him that you are valued here." Tears welled up in Kora's eyes. "I did not think. I thought he did not care." "He cares," Jeremiah said softly, "and he wants to make sure you are safe." Kora turned back to him and kissed him hard, right there in front of the warriors. "You are amazing. You are the most amazing man I have ever known." The warriors set up a camp near the farm, and over the next few weeks, their presence had a dramatic effect. Word spread quickly that the orc clan was protecting Jeremiah's wife, and the hostility from Thornwood Ridge diminished almost overnight. People still stared, still whispered, but no one dared to confront Kora or Jeremiah anymore. The threat of orc retaliation was too great. For the first time since the marriage, they felt safe. Grath and his wife, a formidable orc woman named Mara, visited in late February. Jeremiah had been nervous about the meeting, worried that he would somehow fail to live up to their expectations. But when they arrived, They were courteous and respectful, if a bit formal. Mara embraced Kora with tears in her eyes, holding her daughter close and murmuring in Orcish. Grath clasped Jeremiah's arm in a warrior's greeting, his expression approving. "You have a good home here," Grath said, looking around at the farm. "My daughter looks happy." "I hope she is," Jeremiah said. "I try to make her happy." They stayed for 2 days, and during that time, Jeremiah saw a different side of Kora's family. Mara was warm and loving, constantly fussing over Kora and making sure she was eating enough. Grath was gruff but kind, and he spent hours talking with Jeremiah about farming and strategy and the challenges of maintaining peace. On their last night, Grath pulled Jeremiah aside. "You are a good man, Jeremiah Nash. I am glad my daughter found you. I am glad I found her too. Take care of her, and know that you have allies now. If you ever need help, you can call on the clan." "Thank you, Chief Grath. That means more than you know." When Kora's parents left, she cried happy tears and held Jeremiah's hand so tightly he thought his bones might break. "I never thought I would see them again," she said. "I never thought they would forgive me for leaving. They did not forgive you because there was nothing to forgive. They love you. They always have." That night, as they lay in bed together, Kora turned to him with a question in her eyes. "Jeremiah, I am ready for us to be fully married if you are," his heart stuttered. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I love you, I trust you, and I want to be yours in every way." She reached up to cup his face. "Make love to me." Jeremiah kissed her, slow and deep, and then proceeded to show her exactly how much he loved her. They took their time, learning each other's bodies with patience and care, and when they finally came together, it was tender and intense and perfect. Afterward they lay tangled together, both of them breathless and smiling. Kora's hand found his in the darkness, their fingers lacing together automatically. "That was," she started. "Amazing," he finished. "Yes." She kissed his shoulder. "I am so happy, Jeremiah. Happier than I ever thought I could be." "Me too." They fell asleep like that, hands clasped and bodies close, and Jeremiah thought that this right here was everything he had ever wanted. A home, a wife he loved, peace. Spring came, and with it a new kind of life. The hostility from Thornwood Ridge had not completely disappeared, but it had faded into the background. People were polite if not friendly, and Jeremiah and Kora were left alone to live their lives. The orc warriors continued to patrol the area, a constant reminder that Kora was protected. Some of them became friendly with Jeremiah, stopping by to share meals or trade stories. It was strange at first, this alliance between human and orc, but over time it started to feel normal. Kora bloomed in the warmer weather. She spent hours working in the garden she had planted, growing vegetables and herbs with a skill that surprised Jeremiah. She was happier than he had ever seen her, always smiling, always laughing. She still held his hand every night when they went to sleep, and he still never told her to stop. He never would. In May, Kora told him she was pregnant. Jeremiah stared at her, momentarily speechless, and then he picked her up and spun her around, both of them laughing with joy. "We are going to have a baby." "Yes, a baby." She was crying and smiling at the same time. "Are you happy?" "Happy? Kora, I cannot even describe it. I am beyond happy." They told her parents, who were overjoyed. Mara immediately started making plans to come stay with them when the baby was due, and Grath clasped Jeremiah's shoulder with a grin that showed all his teeth. "You have done well, son." Son. The word made Jeremiah's throat tight. He had never expected to be accepted like this, to be welcomed into Kora's family so completely. The rest of the pregnancy passed in a blur of preparation and anticipation. Jeremiah worked on expanding the house, building a nursery for the baby. Kora knitted blankets and tiny clothes, her hands constantly moving. They talked for hours about what their child would be like, what they would name them, how they would raise them. "You think they will look more human or more orc?" Kora asked one night, lying in bed with Jeremiah's hand on her swollen belly. "I do not know. Does it matter?" "No, I am just curious." She covered his hand with hers. "I hope they have your eyes and your kindness. I hope they have your strength and your courage." "We are going to be good parents," Kora said, and it sounded like a promise. "Yes, we are." The baby came in early winter, a healthy boy with green-tinged skin and his mother's pointed ears, but his father's brown eyes and human features. They named him Thomas, and from the moment Jeremiah held him, he knew his life had changed forever. This tiny, perfect child was the future. He was proof that humans and orcs could not only coexist, but build something beautiful together. Kora was an amazing mother, patient and loving and fiercely protective. Jeremiah watched her with their son and fell in love with her all over again, deeper than he had thought possible. And every night, even with the baby in a cradle beside their bed, Kora still reached for Jeremiah's hand. Even exhausted from sleepless nights, even distracted by the demands of motherhood, she still needed that connection. And he still gave it to her, willingly and gladly. Years passed. Thomas grew into a bright, curious child who was loved by both humans and orcs. More mixed marriages happened in the area, inspired by Jeremiah and Kora's example. The treaty between Thornwood Ridge and the orc clans grew stronger, transforming from a tenuous peace into a genuine alliance. But through it all, one thing remained constant. Every night when they went to sleep, Kora reached for Jeremiah's hand, and he never, ever told her to stop. On their 10th wedding anniversary, they lay in bed together, fingers laced as always, and Kora said, "Do you remember when I first came to your room? That first night, of course. I was so afraid you would think I was weak, afraid you would send me away. I could never send you away. Not then, not now, not ever." Kora turned her head to look at him, and even after all these years, her eyes still made his heart skip. "I did not think I could be this happy. I thought this marriage would be a prison. Instead, it became my freedom." "You are my freedom too," Jeremiah said. "You gave me a reason to stop running from my past. You gave me a home. We gave each other a home." She kissed him softly. "I love you, Jeremiah Nash. I have loved you from the moment you first held my hand and did not let go. I love you too, Kora Nash, and I am never letting go." They fell asleep like that, hands clasped together. Two people who had been strangers brought together by politics and circumstance, who had found in each other something neither had known they needed: love, trust, home. And every night, for the rest of their long, happy lives, Kora reached for her husband's hand, and Jeremiah never told her to stop. He never would, because that simple gesture, that nightly ritual of clasped hands, was more than just comfort. It was a promise. A reminder that they had chosen each other, over and over again, every single day, that they were in this together, that they would face whatever came as partners, as equals, as two people who had built something real and lasting out of the broken pieces they had started with. Their story was not perfect. There were hard days and difficult moments, times when the prejudice from the outside world pressed in and made them question everything. There were nights when Kora cried from the weight of being different, and days when Jeremiah wanted to rage against the unfairness of a society that could not accept their love. But they endured, they persevered, and they did it together, hand in hand, exactly the way they had started. Thomas grew up and had children of his own, and Kora and Jeremiah became grandparents to a whole new generation of mixed-heritage children who grew up knowing that love could transcend species. That family was built on choice as much as blood. The settlement grew too. evolving from a place of tension and hostility into a true community where humans and orcs lived side by side, trading and working and building a shared future. Jeremiah and Kora's farm became a gathering place, a symbol of what was possible when people chose understanding over fear. And through it all, through every triumph and every challenge, every joy and every sorrow, one thing remained absolutely constant. At night, when the world was quiet and it was just the two of them in the darkness, Kora reached for Jeremiah's hand, and he took it, always, without hesitation, without complaint, without ever once suggesting that she should stop, because that was what love was. It was showing up, day after day, night after night. It was offering your hand and trusting that it would be taken. It was the comfort of knowing that no matter how hard things got, you would never have to face them alone. Kora had come to him afraid and alone, a woman given away by her family and thrust into a life she did not choose. And Jeremiah had been a man running from his past, trying to find peace in isolation. But together, they had built something neither could have created alone: a home, a family. A love story that defied every expectation and overcame every obstacle. And it all started with a simple gesture in the darkness. A hand reaching out, another hand reaching back, and two people choosing every single night to hold on, to never let go. To be there for each other, no matter what. That was their story. That was their triumph, and in the end, that was all that mattered. Not the treaty that brought them together, not the politics or the prejudice or the problems that had seemed so insurmountable at the start. What mattered was the choice they made, over and over again, to love each other, to be partners, to hold hands in the darkness and face the world together. Years later, when they were old and gray, Kora's tusks yellowed with age, Jeremiah's hands gnarled with arthritis, they still maintained their nightly ritual. It took longer to get into bed now, their movements slower and more careful. But once they were settled, Kora's hand would find Jeremiah's, and he would wrap his fingers around hers, and they would both sigh with contentment. "Still cannot sleep without me," Jeremiah would tease, his voice rough with age. "Never could, never will," Kora would reply, and her smile would be just as bright as it had been on their wedding night. And they would fall asleep like that, two souls so thoroughly intertwined that even death would not separate them. Because some bonds are forged in darkness and desperation, in the quiet moments when one person reaches out and another chooses to hold on. Those bonds do not break. They do not fade. They only grow stronger with time, rooted deep in the soil of shared experience and watered with patience and care. Jeremiah and Kora's bond was like that. Unbreakable, eternal, built on the foundation of a single simple gesture, a hand in a hand, a choice made in darkness, a promise kept night after night, year after year, decade after decade. She reached for him, he held on. And neither of them ever let go. That was their story. That was their legacy, and it was perfect.